You're used to the idea that you need to be alert in unfamiliar surroundings, in the middle of a crowd of strangers, on vacation in a foreign country. But security might not be top of mind when you're sitting at a computer, checking email on your tablet, or connecting on your phone. Unfortunately, you're just as vulnerable in the virtual world as in the physical one, if not more so, because the internet allows you to connect to anyone in the world and anyone can connect to you. You may think there's nothing that valuable to protect. Who cares if a hacker sees a little email, some photos, the web pages you visit? Whether you realize it or not, you have a lot to protect, and there are lots of cyber criminals out there who want it. There's information about you that can be used to steal your identity. There's financial and banking information, and possibly sensitive health information. Depending upon where you work, you might have trade secrets, intellectual property, confidential data about your coworkers. And access to your business networks could be used to gain intelligence about your organization or commit large-scale fraud. Remember that any one piece of data may or may not have much value by itself, but there are people out there every day putting bits of information together to create a bigger picture, even if you don't have all of the pieces in one place. Hackers can use information that they steal from you in one location to get access to another, especially if you've used the same password. Maybe they get a social security number from one, a partial credit card from another, your birth date from a third. Once they pull all this information together, they have a more credible way to steal your identity and get access to networks that they shouldn't. And who are you up against? Even though some are no more sophisticated than petty thieves, other cybercriminals are very sophisticated, such as state-based hackers and organized crime. Like everything else in life, there's no way to be 100% safe. Things can go wrong. But if you implement cybersecurity best practices, you can stop the petty thieves 99% of the time and make life a lot more difficult for the sophisticated criminals. In this course, we'll cover harmful spam and malware, malicious software that infects your computer systems and causes all kinds of trouble. We'll talk about what makes a good password and how to create layers of protection that make it harder to break in. We'll discuss software and hardware precautions you should take and explain how hackers use social engineering to trick you. Cybersecurity is incredibly important. Lots of people don't take proper precautions because cybersecurity sounds complex and advice can be really confusing. Since cybersecurity best practices vary by device and operating system, you're going to have to do some research yourself. But by the end of this course, you'll be better armed to defend yourself, your coworkers, and your business, no matter what kind of device you're using. You probably know that you're vulnerable every time you go online, but you may not realize the extent to which computer hacking has become big business. Sure, some hackers work alone in their basement, but others have colleagues, job descriptions, salaries. Hacking has gone corporate, and it's everywhere. Even though you may feel more vulnerable while traveling or using public Wi-Fi, you can be exposed to hacking at any time, including at home or at work. You need to assume that you're at risk unless you take precautions. Let's start with spam email. You might think that spam is simply annoying, but not necessarily threatening. In fact, it can be more than just a nuisance. Malicious spam often contains links to places you don't want to go. Don't take a chance by clicking on them. In the same general category is adware. Adware is software that gathers information about you for marketing and web analytics. Even though it's recording your online activities, adware is not the same as the spying done by very sophisticated agents for industrial and international espionage. In fact, adware is everywhere. It's totally legal, and it's used by legitimate websites as well as risky ones. Adware captures all kinds of information, including the web page you visited just before the web page you're on and where you go next. This information is linked to other known information about you to create profiles that are sold to others. This is not cause for alarm for the most part. But if you're concerned about your privacy, you can install ad blocker apps on your web browser to prevent this kind of information gathering. Now let's talk about malware. This is short for malicious software. It's harmful code that can help hackers gather information about you, get access to other networks or computer systems, steal your valuable data, facilitate fraud, or even destroy your data. There are lots of terms that computer people use to describe various forms of malware: viruses, worms, botnets, sometimes ransomware. Simply speaking, a virus is malware that can copy itself and spread. It's designed to infect one computer or device and then spread to other devices so that it can infect many more, including entire networks. A worm is like a virus, but it spreads even more independently. It often hides as a small bit of code in otherwise legitimate documents, such as a PDF file, exploiting weaknesses in operating systems to carry malware across the web. Botnets are groups of computers from just a few to millions that are being controlled by someone else, often to do one specific task, such as attacking other computer systems. You might not see your cursor moving or have any other indication that you're participating, but your computer can be forced to join with many others in going on the attack. When 1 million computers are told to try to connect to one server at the same moment, the server can't handle the traffic and shuts down. These attacks, called distributed denial of service attacks or DDoS attacks, are primitive but can be very effective. Threats of these attacks have been used to extort money from potential targets, and actual attacks have been used to damage competitors, harm political causes that hackers disagree with, or seek revenge against former employers. Ransomware is malware that gets in your system and locks it up so you can't use it or access your data. The attacker either encrypts all your data, withholding the key, or prevents you from getting in. In recent years, millions of dollars have been paid to ransomware attackers. Sometimes payment gives you the key to unlock your data, but not always. Sometimes you pay the ransom and you still can't access your files. This is why backing up your data is so important, especially for critical business data, but also for irreplaceable personal files such as photos that would be painful to lose forever. How do you stay away from malware? Don't get too comfortable online. Don't click suspicious links. Don't surf where you shouldn't, especially on sites promoting sensationalist headlines or questionable activities. But the best precaution you can take is to depend on defensive software programs such as ad blockers and antivirus software. Your own native systems will also help protect you as long as you keep them regularly updated. Improperly obtaining a password is the easiest and most obvious way to get into a device or system you are not authorized to access. And easy, obvious passwords can be hacked almost before you enter them. So maintaining passwords that can't be hacked is the challenge we all face. There are two kinds of passwords: those for accessing hardware devices and those for logging into websites and applications. Hardware devices need to be locked up just like your house or car, so use a PIN or access password for all laptops, desktops, and mobile devices. Make sure all the access codes are unique for all your different devices. For mobile devices that offer PIN protection on their screens, use the longer version that is more than 4 characters. If fingerprint technology is available, use that too. You can go to Settings to enable these precautions. Passwords for websites and applications are even more at risk. Not many hackers will be able to get their hands on your devices, but hackers worldwide can take a stab at hacking your online presence by trying to guess your passwords. When the bad guys are guessing passwords, they aren't saying, "I wonder if it's this," or "I wonder if it's that." They're using computer programs that can test tens of thousands of combinations in a matter of seconds. A strong password is betting against the math that they can break it. Even though there's no guarantee, you can still make it harder for cyber criminals to get your passwords by making them long, complicated, and nonsensical. The bad guys will try any known word or phrase, especially if it's been used by yourself or others in the past. They've bought huge databases of stolen passwords, and they'll try all of these on you too. So how do you make your passwords hard to crack? Please just give up on needing to memorize them. Make them so complicated that you need to write them down. While writing down passwords may sound counterintuitive, I'll explain it in a moment. Strong passwords are long, at least 8 characters, with uppercase and lowercase letters mixed in with numbers and special characters such as punctuation and other symbols on your keyboard. If you're logging into accounts with password protocols that prevent using one of these safeguards, for example, if they don't allow special characters, then use as much complexity as you can. You should end up with passwords that look like this: a password you can't remember. Just write them down and secure them in a safe place, such as where you'd keep a deed for property or a vehicle title. You are much more at risk online from cybercriminals than you are from burglars breaking into your workplace, searching for your written password list. Another option is to create a simple password that is hard to break because it is really long. Since many users are still not choosing good passwords, the U.S. government now recommends using long passphrases, that is, several words strung together into a phrase, rather than trying to create complex passwords that feature multiple types of characters. Don't share your passwords with anyone, even trusted people. They might not be as careful as you are or as trustworthy as you think. Don't put passwords in emails or texts where they last forever, or save them anywhere electronically that is not encrypted. Don't put them in Notepad or a Word doc or a spreadsheet, and certainly not in a folder named Passwords. Bad guys always look there first. And I strongly recommend that you consider using a password manager so you can access your passwords from any device. A password manager is like an encrypted treasure chest that contains all of your passwords. You unlock it with one super complicated master password, which can then unlock all of your accounts using complex encrypted machine-generated passwords. This way, you only have to memorize one password to access the rest. And your stored passwords will be encrypted so that even if the bad guys somehow break into the password manager, your passwords will be scrambled and unrecognizable. Here's how a password manager works. First, type in the code to unlock your computer or device. This you must memorize. Once your device is unlocked, use your password manager to access websites, bank accounts, and social media. The password manager auto-completes all these passwords for you. There are a lot of different password managers out there. Some come with the operating system of your computer or mobile device. Others can be accessed for free or a small fee as an app. I recommend you do your research to find out which ones are considered the most effective for your devices and the most workable for you. So passwords essentials: always use complex passwords even if you can't memorize them. Don't share them with others, and don't reuse them for multiple devices, websites, or applications. When you're doing something risky, you don't count on just one layer of protection. When you're on the road and in an unfamiliar setting, you normally take extra precautions. It's the same online. To stop hackers, you need layers of protection, and you need to manage your risks if you want to avoid trouble in the virtual world. The first layer of protection is to secure your email. Even though it might appear mundane, email presents a special risk. Think about it. If someone were to get access, there's a lot of useful information about you they could exploit: your schedule, your contacts, your business deals. And email is also a tool that could be used to get access to all of your other accounts. Here's how. Just about every login has a link for "I forgot my password." Clicking that link usually sends an email to your inbox with instructions for changing your password. Bad guys with access to your email could change these passwords so they could get in, and now you can't. So basically, strong password protocols are just as critical for email as any of your most sensitive accounts. Layer number 2, whenever possible, use two-factor authentication. This enhances your security because it makes it more than twice as hard to break in. Most likely, you already use two-factor authentication. When you withdraw money from an ATM, you have two things that verify who you are. One is a card, and the other is a PIN. A thief who has only your card can't make any use of it without also having your PIN. Two-factor authentication online uses the same principle. It's like having to get through 2 locked doors instead of 1. If your password gets compromised, the hackers still can't get access without passing the second barrier. In addition to your password, two-factor authentication verifies that you are you by either the device that you are using or by requiring a second code that only you could have access to. Many tech companies do this for you. For example, the first time you use a device they don't recognize, they make you enter another code they send by text or email to the phone number or address you gave them when you first created the account. Since an unfamiliar device could belong to a hacker who has stolen your password, this code prevents them getting in with just the password alone. You can also set this up yourself for your most valuable logins, like those to email, bank accounts, or remote networks. Look in the settings for the account or contact the service provider for directions to require two-factor authentication every time, even with familiar devices. Now, protection layer 3. When you're accessing web pages, use sites that offer encrypted communication between your computer and the website. This prevents hackers from reading and intercepting the communications and data that are going back and forth. To find websites that offer this extra layer of protection, look for the S in the URL where it starts with HTTP. Encrypted websites have a lock at the beginning of the address bar, or you'll see the S in the URL. This protocol is standard for protecting data that flows between your computer and a website. Be sure to keep an eye on the address bar as you click through to related pages. Some websites may have you log into an encrypted page, but then link you to unprotected pages. If the lock is no longer there, understand that your data could be compromised and proceed with caution. Lastly, layer number 4. When you're outside your firewall, such as while traveling or using personal devices, that's when using a VPN or virtual private network can keep you safe. A VPN is a way of making sure that all communications between you and another computer are encrypted. A VPN makes the communication unreadable unless you have the decryption key. So even if bad guys get access, say on a public Wi-Fi, they can't see your data. Your organization may have set up a VPN for you, or you can subscribe to one on your own. Some are free. You'll want to evaluate them, as some are better and more trustworthy than others. Since your traffic has to go through a third party for the encryption, it can slow down your data transmission speeds. So find out how well a VPN is encrypted, how fast, and where it's based. Ask your IT professionals whether there is an approved VPN that you're authorized to use outside your network. If you can't use a VPN when outside your firewall, use your phone's data network by turning off Wi-Fi in your settings. This reverts to using cellular transmission for sending files. Since each cellular transmission is a unique connection, it is much more difficult to intercept. Whether at work or at home, maintaining your software is critical for protecting your systems. Software developers do their best to stay current and constantly offer updates that improve functionality and defend against new threats. But once they make software updates available, it's up to you to install them. If you see a notice like this on your computer, informing you of the need to install an update or upgrade to software that's already installed, especially a critical update to your operating system, browser, or a major tool, then don't delay. Do it right away. Usually, it only takes a few moments With most software, it's pretty painless. The worst you may have to do is restart your system or device to make it take effect. In many cases, you can set your software to update automatically, or you may receive a notification that you need to download your updates. On mobile devices, this is often shown by a small number or badge notification next to the icon for the App Store. Whenever you see this, make a habit of updating right away. If your device doesn't offer this kind of notification, then get in the routine of checking in your settings menu for updates on a frequent basis. Again, updates will essentially be done for you, but usually you need to be the one initiating the process. Look, we know that people are sometimes too busy to update their software, and after you update, you may have to relearn certain functions you've grown accustomed to using in a certain way. But for the sake of your own security, you should stay on top of updates. Downloads are data or files that users find on the internet and copy to their own computers. They are an easy way for hackers to distribute malware and gain access to your systems. So be careful with them, especially with any new application or software. If you're downloading an application or software that was not previously on your system at work, then make sure you have authorization or check with your IT department. Otherwise, downloading software from reputable companies or places like the Apple App Store or Google Play is better than getting it from a random website. Downloading any code from other parts of the internet that may or may not be trusted is always a risk. In construction, a firewall is a barrier between parts of a building designed to keep a fire from spreading. In technology, devices have firewalls too, especially computers and laptops. These firewalls determine what information does and does not get through to a computer. Their main goal is to prevent hackers from getting into your systems. When you're using company-supplied equipment and networks, your organization will have determined firewall settings to protect everyone on the system. You should think twice before disabling your firewall to download a file or engage in activity that would otherwise not be possible. The firewall is there for a reason, to keep you safe. If you don't have a firewall on a personal device, you can add one, depending upon the device, how you use it, and the environment in which you're using it. There are trade-offs for protection versus loss of functionality, so you'll need to do a little homework to determine the best firewall solution for you. A final software precaution is data encryption. Basically, if your data is encrypted, only you can read it. With many phones and tablets, just locking them with an access code means your data is encrypted. Even if someone steals your phone, they can't see your data without your access code. For other systems, including laptops, you might have to do a little homework to see what encryption options are available and what's worth the trouble, depending on the sensitivity of your data. Mobile devices, by definition, are meant to go with you wherever you go. They may contain just as much valuable information as a stationary desktop, yet are much more at risk. They don't have the benefit of staying in one place, protected by locked doors, alarm systems, and network firewalls. So you need to take extra precautions when using and carrying them. Here's what I recommend. Unless they're inside an otherwise secure environment, keep all of your devices with you or lock them up. If your hotel doesn't have a safe or they don't fit inside, take them with you. When you're out and about, don't set them down where they could be quickly grabbed, and consider carrying them in something that doesn't look like a laptop carrier, like maybe a backpack. Always keep your pack securely with you. Don't keep your phone in your back pocket or in an open bag. There are some countries where you should not take devices with sensitive information, period. There is a high likelihood that they will be compromised. Certain governments are set up such that all your information will be in state hands no matter what reasonable precautions you take. And no matter where you go, beware of USB drives, also called flash drives, thumb drives, and memory sticks. Basically, you should never use them. They are just too vulnerable. They might seem safe and convenient because they seem to be everywhere for free and lots of people use them. but they are highly risky. Hackers love using USB drives to spread malware from one computer to another. Although rare, even when brand new, they can come preloaded with malware. And once you put them in someone else's machine, you may get whatever they have. Instead, use a reputable online file transfer service. There are any number of them that allow you to transfer large files, and yet they're free or very inexpensive. But okay, if you must use a memory stick, get a new one that's never been used in any other device and make sure it's a good brand, even if this means it costs a little bit more, and never put it back in your machine after it's been in someone else's. Here's another risk you may not have considered: the automobile. Cars are computers now, and malware can get in the ports from contact with infected devices. Even if you use your own cables in a rental car, you're taking a chance every time you charge your phone. I also don't recommend pairing your phone with someone else's car's Bluetooth. If you do, remember that you're connecting one computer to another. In many cases, the car grabs data from the phone, which is then very hard to delete. When the car is sold or turned back in, do you want your contacts and other information made available to someone else? Unfortunately, you can't assume that hardware, even new hardware, is safe. It's not like plugging an appliance into the wall. Secure your mobile devices, use online file transfer services instead of USB drives, and think before you plug any device into any other. Throughout human history, con artists have used manipulation to make money off of gullible or unsuspecting targets. Now the virtual world provides an infinitely wider reach, where billions of dollars are being made through online deception and fraud. This online trickery is called social engineering. It's a form of computer hacking that depends on convincing you to take an action that breaches your firewalls and other computer defenses, letting the cyber criminals get in for data theft or other fraudulent purposes. They try to accomplish this by manipulating you into clicking a fraudulent link or responding to a fake message. Or they present you with something like an email that looks legitimate, even though it's not. Social engineering comes in various forms, including spoofing, scareware, phishing, and spear phishing. Spoofing is a fake website or message designed to look just like the real ones. You might get an email that looks just like it came from your email provider or your bank, complete with their official-looking logo. If you click the link in the message, you get taken to a website that again looks just like your email provider or your bank's. But when you enter your login and password, the hackers copy this information before forwarding you to the real site. You land in your actual account not knowing that the hackers now have everything they need to log in as you whenever they want. How do you defend against this kind of trickery? Sometimes. The only clue is closely scrutinizing the URL or email address, looking for a hidden misspelling that could take you to a fake site. Instead of using the link, go to your browser and type in the URL yourself to get to the actual site. And trust your instincts. If something about an email seems out of place or represents an uncommon event, often involving money or sensitive data, don't proceed. Remember that banks and other reputable institutions will never ask you to provide sensitive information, such as passwords, social security numbers, or account numbers. Scareware is intended to scare you into clicking a link that you otherwise might be suspicious of. Scareware can be in the form of an email. It can also happen online, for example, when you land on a website and get a pop-up that says your computer is infected and you should click a provided link to download some antivirus software that will fix it, even though your computer is actually fine and the link will download malware instead. The best solution here is to stick to mainstream websites when surfing the web and be suspicious of unsolicited pop-ups. If you see something that looks like scareware, quit your browser and rely on your already installed legitimate antivirus software to protect you from infection. Phishing messages are forms of spoofing that pretend to be legitimate messages, often from a reputable source, designed to get you to click on a link or reveal sensitive data. The most obvious forms of phishing are messages that contain misspellings and grammatical errors, raising red flags for most of us the minute we see them. But there is another, more risky type of phishing. These are legitimate-looking messages designed to appear very genuine. They might say a delivery from an online order needs an address confirmation, or maybe you'll see a warning about suspicious withdrawals from your bank account that didn't actually take place, along with instructions to change your password. Even worse is a form of phishing called spear phishing that is incredibly difficult to identify. In these cases, the bad guys have been collecting information about you, your colleagues, or your organization. Spear phishing messages are hard to recognize because they seem to come from a known or trusted person. An email supposedly comes from a coworker with a link or attachment that contains malware, or a message appears to be from your CEO asking for confidential information. If you work in HR or accounting or handle any kind of sensitive or protected data, you're even more likely to be targeted. Emails like this trick people all the time, but don't fall for them. Basically, if someone is asking you to share confidential information by email, something isn't right. Call the sender to verify it really came from that individual. If it did, suggest to the sender not to use email for this kind of request. Depending on your system, there are ways to see details about the sender's email address or embedded links. Does the URL make sense? Inspect attachments before opening them. If you have any doubt, consult an IT professional. The need for caution also applies to social media. Watch for friend requests from people you don't know. They could be bots or fake identities used to harvest personal details, like where you work or when you're going on vacation. Some governments, large and small, use social media to spread disinformation for the sake of influencing your beliefs and manipulating your decisions, such as how you vote. Don't be fooled. Check incredible headlines and stories against legitimate sources of news and information. Don't get cyber mugged by a suspicious message asking you for information by email or text. If there is any doubt, pick up the phone and call the sender. Ask them directly if they sent it before you respond. We've covered a lot in this course, so let's take a moment to recap some of the most important takeaways. Cybercrime has become big business, and we all have valuable data to protect. There's personally identifiable information, financial accounts, and health records. At work, there might be trade secrets, intellectual property, or confidential material. And access to your business networks could be used to gain intelligence or commit large-scale fraud. Hackers use malware or malicious software to steal data and identities or commit extortion and fraud. This malware takes many forms, including viruses, worms, botnets, and ransomware. Passwords are critical for protecting your valuable information, yet hackers are able to break most commonly used passwords within seconds. A strong password is betting against the math that they can break it. You need to create unique and complex passwords, even if this means it's impossible to memorize them. Store them securely and never share them with anyone. Add layers of protection that make it hard for hackers to break in, such as using secure websites, virtual private networks or VPNs, and two-factor authentication. Maintain your software by keeping it current, installing updates right away to defend against new threats. Even though updates may interrupt what you're doing at the moment, they're worth the trouble. Be especially careful of downloads, checking to make sure that they come from legitimate sources. Don't install new software on your business computers without checking first to make sure it is authorized. Firewalls are there to protect you, so don't try to get around them. And consider adding firewalls to your personal devices if you carry particularly sensitive data. Don't assume that hardware is necessarily safe. Use online file transfer services instead of USB drives, and think before you plug any device into any other. Social engineering is today's version of the con game. It comes in various forms, including spoofing, scareware, phishing, and spear phishing. Take care and don't engage with suspicious content. We all have an obligation to develop good cybersecurity habits and help stop malware from spreading. This means staying alert and properly managing our settings, passwords, and other tools so we can avoid infecting ourselves and everyone else we're connected to. There's a little work here, but it's worthwhile and can greatly reduce your risk. Thanks for joining me, and stay safe.